Welcome back, crime sceners. I'm here with another video with more confusing stuff, as if there wasn't enough already, including some conflicting statements from witnesses. So in the video that I did about where Nanette Ellis was attacked in her home, I thought that she was attacked in her bedroom or walking out of her bedroom. Some people thought it was the other way around. It was that back bedroom that was one of the boys' rooms, which we don't know which boy it was. Somebody once told me that they think it was Craig's, but I've never had any real confirmation on that. But we do know it's one of the boys' bedrooms, of course, that back one there. So some people thought that she was in there when she was attacked. I don't really think that it matters which room she was in when she was attacked, because she was attacked in that area. I mean, we can know for sure, for dead certain, that she was attacked in that bit there where all the blood was. And I think that we all agreed that no matter which room it was, she knew her killer and she was in the room, either room, with that person. So the next question that I had was, where did the knife come from? Did this person have it on them so they were ready to go and they knew what they were going to do? Or was this a spur of the moment thing and they've just picked up a knife from wherever and attacked her? This might also depend on what sort of knife it was, because most people don't keep kitchen knives in their bedrooms unless they were eating a meal in there and they've left the plate there with the knife on it. I guess that's a possibility. Or it might have been a different kind of knife, like a hunting knife, or a, what do you call those things? Those flick, not flick knife, but you know, like a Swiss Army knife or something like that. I can see that those kind of knives might be kept in a bedroom. But I didn't even click on this because I am lousy with measurements. I can't tell 3 centimeters from 3 meters. So I went back and had a look at the size of the wounds, and the largest wound is 3 centimeters. That goes downwards for 7 centimeters. The other one is 2 centimeters, and then there's 2.5 centimeter ones. So the largest one is a 3 centimeter wound. And when I checked on a ruler, that's not very big. It is bigger than a normal, like, dinner steak knife. So I have to think that it wasn't because somebody left a plate in their room and someone's just picked it up. I have to think this is, it's not large enough to be one of those big knives, like, you know, the big ones that you get in a knife block. It's smaller than that. So it may have been one of the other ones that kind of came out of a knife block that's, you know, smaller than the big one, but bigger than the steak knives. I would think that a Swiss Army knife would be thinner and a hunting knife would be thicker than 3 centimeters. I'm talking around in circles again. But my point is that the person who killed her, if they were in the room with her, which we think they were, and that she knew them, they had to have had the knife on them. That means it's premeditated. Unless it was some sort of like hunting knife or something and they've just left it lying around in the bedroom and they've picked it up out of anger and attacked her. Okay, so like with everything else, that didn't come to a conclusion either. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. The other thing that's confusing me right now is the DNA. We know they have it because Craig said in that podcast that he was on that his father had been ruled out by DNA. That means they have the profile of the killer, or else how would they rule him out? That means all they have to do is take DNA from everybody who was around Nanette at that time and match it up. Now, I would think that in 40 years, the police have tested everyone she knew. And if that was the case, then the murderer is somebody she didn't know. And that doesn't match up with what we think happened. So are we completely wrong? But have the police actually tested everybody who knew Nanette? Have they even tested Craig and Greg? We know they tested Max Ellis. Well, we can assume that anyway. That's what Craig said on his podcast. I don't know why he would lie about that. The police have also said that Max was ruled out, although they didn't say how. But Craig said it was through a DNA test. So I'm going to believe him on that one and say that Max Ellis was ruled out by DNA. However, I have to assume that Craig wasn't. And I said this before on a previous video, it was kind of a long time ago, but I did say that I found it to be a little bizarre that Craig would be on the podcast and he would mention that his father was ruled out by DNA, but not say that he was as well. Or even if he was tested at all. After 30 years of people having suspicions about him, that would have been the perfect time to say, yeah, my father was ruled out by DNA and so was I. Or even my father was ruled out by DNA and I was tested too. Or maybe even, and Greg was tested too. But he said about Max, but he didn't say anything about him and his brother. I just found that to be a little bit odd because it would have been the perfect opportunity to put all those suspicions to rest, and he didn't take it. So that doesn't really mean anything, you know. Maybe he's nervous speaking to other people, and especially about the subject matter that he was talking about. So maybe he just didn't think to say it. But I have to assume that the police have not tested everybody that was around Nanette, because I believe it was someone that she knew. I think a lot of other people think it was someone that she knew. And I think that if they had actually tested everyone that was around her, I think this case would have been solved a long, long time ago. Is it even in the system? The system being the National Criminal Investigation DNA Database, or NCIDD, which is our version of CODIS. You can't ask police because they won't tell you anything. But I have to assume that if everyone Nanette knew was tested and it was put into the database, I would think that this had already been solved. I would love to get in touch with the people that knew her and ask them, have you been tested? But I can't because everyone's got their Facebook pages on private and everyone's very, very secretive for some reason. Well, I'll just use this as an opportunity right now. If you knew Nanette Ellis, have you been tested? Have you been DNA tested? Did the police DNA test you? Did the police even question you? Please let us know. If you don't want to write it in the comments, contact me at crimesceneaus@outlook.com. That's crimesceneaus@outlook.com. We're going to see, or we're going to try to see, and we're going to try to find out how many people Nanette knew were actually DNA tested in the last 40 years. You don't have to worry about me mentioning your name, because if you've been listening to this channel for any length of time, you know that I never ever mention anyone's names. So you can contact me, you can tell me if you have been DNA tested, if you knew Nanette, of course, and your identity will be safe with me. Now, before I get into this conflicting statement that I wanted to tell you about, I just wanted to do a little update about her jewellery. My neighbour's just started up his lawnmower yet again. That's all he ever does is mow his lawn. I'm surprised there's any grass left to mow, but just ignore that if you can hear that. But the jewellery. I did a video on the jewellery a little while ago, and that was before I actually saw any crime scene photos. So my concern was that the receptionist that she worked with said that that day she was wearing some gold stud earrings. She had a large diamond solitaire ring on her finger. She had a gold necklace. And none of these items were actually mentioned in the coroner's report. And I thought that was weird, because I thought that they should have been taken for testing, and I don't really know if they were or anything, but that was what the video was about anyway, just where was her jewellery. But after seeing the photo, I can give you an update to say her jewellery was on her. Well, most of it anyway. You can clearly see that she's wearing the gold stud earrings. You can clearly see that she's wearing the gold necklace around her neck, and she also had a black watch on as well. What you can't see is the diamond ring. Now, the photo doesn't really show her hands completely clearly. It's not like the photo is taken dead onto her hands. They're kind of like turned around. But the receptionist said it was a large solitaire ring. So I think that you'd be able to see it popping up if it was that large on the hands, and you cannot see a ring on either of Nanette's hands. Now, of course, I'm not definitively saying that somebody stole it. It could actually still be on her hand, but you can't see it because of the angle of the photo. Or she could have taken it off when she got home. Or the receptionist could have just been mistaken and thought she had it on that day and actually didn't. So there's a number of reasons there why you might not be able to see the ring on her finger. But I just wanted to do that quick update to say that yes, the necklace is clearly there, the earrings are clearly there, she has a watch on. I just don't know about the ring. But I would think if it actually was a robbery for the jewellery, they would have taken all the jewellery. Unless, which is something that has just come to me this second, unless they deliberately just wanted the ring. Why is a woman that's been divorced for 9 years wearing a solitaire diamond ring anyway? I'm sure there are women out there who wear diamond solitaire rings who aren't married, who aren't engaged. But it is kind of more associated with an engagement ring, isn't it? So there's another question that might never get answered. Was that an engagement ring? Is that the one that she had with Max? Or was she actually seeing someone else and it was an engagement ring from a new guy? I don't really believe that. By the way, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate now that I'm saying it right now. I don't even believe that one. Or is she just wearing the ring because she likes it and she sees it as a fashion accessory? But if it was the engagement ring that she had with Max, maybe somebody wanted it back. I'm just making up shit here, of course, because, like I said, you can't really tell for 100% certain that that ring is not on her finger when she died. But looking at the picture, myself, if I was a betting person, I would say there's an 80% chance that ring is not on her finger. But then again, like I said, she could have taken it off herself. Okay, so now lastly, let's get onto these conflicting statements. And this has to do with the statement that the receptionist from the Free Press gave the police and the coroner right after it happened. If you remember, she's the one that described Nanette's clothing and jewellery and everything else in great detail, including what colour her makeup purse was. And I was talking to somebody about that and I said to them, I wouldn't have a clue what my co-worker was wearing on any particular day. And they actually said to me that they probably would know what their co-worker was wearing. So obviously this person's more into fashion and stuff like that. So, they notice a few things that I wouldn't. But even when I got to the part where she said that the jacket had a butterfly stick pin in the collar, and the person I was talking to said, yeah, even I wouldn't notice something like that. So this receptionist is pretty observant. But the rest of her statement mentioned that Nanette and her were alone in the office from about 3:15 p.m. in the afternoon until about 2 to 3 minutes before 5 when they decided to close up. So they've closed up, they've gone down to the car park where both their cars are situated right next to each other. She said she was helping Nanette carry her vacuum cleaner to the car, and that Nanette also had a Herald that she had purchased off the newspaper boy who came into the office every afternoon, and that she was carrying a green Tupperware container. She said she put the vacuum cleaner parts in the boot and she put the green Tupperware container on the back seat of Nanette's car. She said when they left the car park, she followed Nanette down Burwood Highway until she reached Forest Road. When she reached Forest Road, she checked the car clock and it was 5:10 p.m. Now she's turned down into Forest Road to go to somebody else's house, and Nanette has continued down Burwood Road. She said she waved to her as they separated and Nanette waved back. Now she said the reason that she followed Nanette down there was because Nanette was concerned about, all the rock throwing incidents, even though the last one was like the week before, like a whole week before. Now, as you can see here on the map, after the receptionist goes down Forest Road and Nanette continues down onto Burwood Road, there's a number of ways she could have gone to get home. She could have gone down Dorset Road here, but if she went down Dorset Road, then she could have just gone down Forest Road and ended up in the same spot anyway. So it's more likely that she's gone down here and she's gone down Scoresby Road and then turned straight onto Manuka Road. It also makes sense that she turned into Forest Road, this receptionist turned into Forest Road at 5:10, because that gives Nanette around about 5 minutes to get home. It's around about 5 minutes from there to Nanette's house when the other witness saw her turning into her driveway. So that kind of all fits time-wise. And that's the reason why I didn't give it a second thought. But I've since been contacted by somebody who, obviously, their name will remain anonymous. But this person contacted me and told me that they had seen the video that I had done when I had mentioned the information I just said, that, the receptionist followed her home and stuff like that. And they told me that that timeline was incorrect. Now, keep in mind that I am just repeating what I'm told. I have been unable to verify any of this information. But that being said, I kind of believe this person, and I don't have any reason to think that they would just randomly contact me out of the blue with a bunch of just garbage information. And the information is that on the afternoon that Nanette was murdered, she was in the Baronia office. Apparently, she had gone to the Baronia office because she was waiting for her friend Joan, who was a sales rep there, to finish work for the day so that Joan could follow her home. Now, this definitely doesn't make sense because we've got two bits of information here putting Nanette at two different Free Press offices at the same time. They said that if the receptionist's statement was correct and she turned down Forest Road at 5:10 and Nanette continued on, there is no way she would have gotten home at 5:15 if she had then turned around and gone up to the Baronia office right after. And why would she do that anyway? Why would she get the receptionist to follow her home from the Belgrave office and then instead of going home, which was just around the corner, go up to the Baronia office and sit there and wait for another friend to drive her home instead? That makes no sense. And I have to think that Nanette did get home at 5:15 because the witness that saw her go in there was pretty clear and had seen her before and knew her car and everything. But they said that there was a yellow Ford Cortina station wagon that was in front of her car and behind Nanette's car. And when I heard this new information that Joan had in fact driven behind Nanette to get her home, I wondered if that yellow Cortina station wagon was Joan. I did try to find out if Joan did drive a yellow Cortina station wagon at that time. I couldn't find out definitively if she did, and people couldn't really remember back then. But I did get one person say to me that they did think it was a yellow car that she drove. This doesn't really mean anything, of course, given time and memories and whatnot. And the witness that did see her go into her house that day did think that the driver of the yellow Cortina station wagon was a man. She did say, I think he may have been a middle-aged man. But Joan had short hair, so it could have been an easier mistake to make, especially when you're not really paying attention. And she did say, I think it was a middle-aged man, so that says to me that she wasn't 100% certain that it was a man driving the yellow Cortina. Of course, Joan is now deceased, so we're not going to get any information out of her. But this person did have other people to back up this information, which brings up even further questions. If Nanette did go to the Baronia office that day to wait for Joan to finish work so that Joan could escort her home, that means that Nanette must have left the Belgrave office a lot sooner than what the receptionist claims. It also means that they probably didn't walk out to their cars together, and probably the receptionist did not follow Nanette home like she says she did. So someone's lying. The new information that I got also had concerns about the phone call between Nanette and Craig that Craig talks about, which we can't actually verify and we can't ask police because they won't tell us. But apparently, Nanette and Craig spoke on the phone that afternoon, the day that she was murdered. And Nanette had told Craig that everything was going to be okay now. And this new information said that it was shocking to hear because Nanette was visibly distressed while she was waiting for Joan to drive her home that day. So like I said, we don't even know if that phone call even happened. We have no verification that that phone call even happened. But if it did, it could have just been a mother trying to calm down her son, trying to put on a brave face. I know I've done that with my children before, so it doesn't really say anything about it. But I think it is really important to note that Nanette really was very scared on the day that she was murdered. So what do you make of that? I mean, somebody is not telling the truth here. Somebody has got it wrong. And I'm not saying that somebody is outright lying. Maybe they have got it wrong. And you might think, well, the receptionist is probably the one that we're supposed to believe because she gave her statement within days of Nanette's murder. And this new information has come from somebody who's trying to remember stuff from 40 years ago. But this person is adamant that they're correct in the information that they gave me, that they remember that day very, very clearly. And everything that they've said, I've kind of tend to believe. And I don't even know if I should be saying that because if I believe this person, then I have to say that I don't believe the receptionist. And I did try to reach out. I did try to get her side of the story, but of course she's also got everything private and very hard to track down. So if she's listening and you want to tell your side of the story, you can do the same thing that I said before. You can either write it in the comments. If you don't want to write it in the comments, you can get in touch with me at crimesceneaus, that's AUS, so crimesceneaus at outlook.com, and tell me your story because we want to hear it. We want to know what's going on, basically. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for today, and that's a few things for everybody to wrap their head around. And once again, it's more questions than answers, and it seems to be going around in circles. So, yeah, what do you reckon? Let me know in the comments what you think's going on here. Have a great day.